Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be back with IJS. I love what you do always, and I'm just breathing deeply. And I actually got very emotional as you were welcoming people in, and as you're all here. There really are no words, and it doesn't get easier to be in this time. And I think that's why I start to feel emotional when I enter a Jewish space, because I'm reminded of all of those truths that I'm trying to kind of put somewhere else as we're all trying to just work and, do taxes and like feed ourselves. And it feels impossible to be human right now. And it's like an alternate universe. So just thank you for naming that. And I actually wanted to that's exactly the content of this teaching that I'd like to share with you all today. A dear friend of mine who you mentioned, Kashira Halev Fife, who is an incredible leader. She and I had a call yesterday, and in that, I found myself focusing on where I can put my energy these days. And I think that's something, as a Jewish community, we have found a tremendous gift and strength in finding ways to keep going. It's in our bones. It's what we do. It's what we've done for generations. Prosecution, like we've been persecuted. We've run here and there. The reason I'm Salvadorian is because my ancestors fled from the Inquisition and came to a new world. And we all carry all of these stories with us. So it's in our DNA. When there is trouble, we gather and we move, or we fight, or we find a way to move forward. And I share that because I found this in myself yesterday, talking about the ways that we are directing this energy of pain and destruction into creation. At Jutina, working on this leadership program for Latin Jews. And really the framing is that we're so excited, like what a time, needed more than ever. We need to have more leaders in this world. And as I was talking about this with excitement to Kashira, she was celebrating that. And she said that, what I'm doing is I'm holding these feelings, and I just need to be with them. And there was something in the way that she talked about it that it struck me, in this noticing, this observation of myself, and something that is so important as practitioners of mindfulness and meditation is to pause and to be in our feelings. And how many of our ancestors in their times of trouble never really had the opportunity to pause and be, for we were always in survival mode in some way. And it made me curious how, with the resources and the information that we have now, can we find ways to be and to heal and sit with whatever is going on that feels impossible to hold. But could this perhaps shift healing for us in some way? Could this perhaps inform the actions that we take as a people to move forward in the ways necessary? Could that hold a space for transformation? I don't know, but I'm curious. I'm deeply curious about that. And I think being with IJS in this place that encourages us to be with our breath and our body, and to truly practice the being more than the doing in this time of utter devastation. Can we practice that? This is what we practice for, is for these times that feel all too much. And so I'd like to share a text, and I can share my screen. I have a couple of really wonderful friends that have put together a collection of sources that I'll make available. I'll make sure that I send it to you. But I wanted to share the first page. It's a collection of prayers and thoughts and meditations around heartbrokenness and pain. And this felt very relevant. This is from Devarim, from Deuteronomy. It says, "There is none like God, riding through the heavens to help you, through the skies in their majesty." Or, as Hasidic sages say, "Rochev Shemayim be'ozrecha," God, the infinite divine itself, is in fact supported through our help, through our tears, our prayers, and our actions. May our words be heard by God, or the divine, whatever language feels comfortable to you. May our words help free captives, help cultivate lasting peace, help ground the anxious, help comfort the mourners. May our prayers be for the sake of the unification of that which is broken, heartbroken, and in exile. And something that I'm hearing in that is through our feeling and our tears and our grief, that is making meaning and creating hope and change and peace. And just as important and significant as it is to take action and move and do, we need to also center being and feeling. And I want to share one more excerpt of something that really resonated, that I hope can give us some added wisdom in this time. There was a woman named Etty Hillesum, a young Dutch woman in her 20s who wrote a diary very much like Anne Frank during the Nazi occupation, and later she was deported to Auschwitz and died in 1943. But this was something that she wrote in her diary, and I'll share it in the chat here. So Etty wrote this, and feel free to read along if you'd like. And you must be able to bear your sorrow, even if it seems to crush you, and you will be able to stand up again, for human beings are so strong. And your sorrow must become an integral part of yourself. You mustn't run away from it. Give your sorrow all the space and the shelter in yourself that it is due, for or if everyone bears grief honestly and courageously, the sorrow that now fills the world will abate. But if you do instead reserve most of the space inside of you for hatred and thoughts of revenge, from which new sorrows will be born for others, then sorrow will never cease in this world. If you have given sorrow the space it demands, then you may truly say, life is beautiful and so rich, so beautiful and so rich that it makes you want to believe in God. So in this time of so much sorrow, may we find the courage to hold that with compassion as we hold each other and ourselves. And this is where our practice can support us in being able to be brave and holding that, to cultivate strength and healing so that we may move forward as a people from a place of love and a place of knowing rather than moving from a place of fear. And so with that, I'd like to invite us into meditation where we can be with these feelings in ways that can make us feel safe. And if any time it is too much, that's okay. We have our breath to guide us and ground us. And that's important as well. So if you'd like to join me in finding a comfortable position, whether you're sitting up or laying down, excuse me, wherever you are, and allowing your shoulders to be stacked over your hips if you're sitting. And in that comfortable position, finding softness around your eyes, cheeks, and lips, taking a gentle swallow, relaxing, finding some peace where you are in your body in this moment. And if it's comfortable to you, closing your eyes and landing in a place of presence with your breath and with yourself. And we'll take the next moments of time to just be in silence, to be with all that is. Finding your breath, inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. Calling on your breath whenever you need. Gently finding your breath, bringing your awareness to your inhales and your exhales. Breathing deep, bringing life back into your body. Guiding your breath down to your belly, into your lungs, taking life in. And gently welcoming yourself back to your space, to your seat, to your home, wherever you are. And taking your time, you gently begin to move and awaken your body and your heart and your mind. If you feel called to stretch, that's welcome. Bring yourself back to this space together. I want to thank you all for being present with me, with our community today, for making the time to hold what is yours, what is ours, and finding the courage to do that. And the message that's received by us all and by the divine to hear our prayers, to set those free who must be freed, to bring peace and safety to those who need it most, and for us to carry the strength and the courage to feel. Because when we feel things, we heal things. I'm wishing us all continued peace in this time and always. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kimmy. Really beautiful and just so good to be with you and to practice with you. And we seal the practice as we do each day by offering an opportunity, those of you who are in mourning or observing a yard site, or if it's your custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish, we include that as part of the practice to honor the grief, the heartbreak, and mourning. And for those who are not reciting Kaddish, to stay with your practice and be present. For those who are, offer them your compassionate support. If you'd like to put the name or names of anyone you're honoring today as you recite Kaddish, you can put the names in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish. And thanks to Andrew Schumann, who's holding our text space today, for putting the words of the Kaddish on the screen. And if you're reciting them, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time.
Yid-Kadav, Yid-Kadash,
Adav, Yikadash, Shemera, Shama, Divat, Yudhe, Yambich, Mechom, Yomechom, Edechom, Israel,
Israel,
Ishme, Rabba, Barach, Barak,
Chayim Aleinu ve'Kol Yisrael V'Imu Aleinu Shalom Aleinu ve'Kol Yisrael Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'Imu
Amen.
Amen.
And friends, thank you so much for joining us today. Really good to be with you, and I want to thank our teacher for today, Kimberly Dueñas of Jutina Eco, for leading us. And I see Kimmy, you're scheduled to be back to lead us again in about a month. So very happy about that. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon and wish you well on your new endeavor in El Salvador. More about that in a few minutes. For those who are leaving us, we hope you'll join us tomorrow. Cantor Louise Treitman will lead us in practice to sit into Shabbat together, which is always special, and we'll close out this beautiful week of practice together. Thanks as well to Andrew Schumann for holding our space. And Andrew, for those of you who may not know, is also the producer of our new podcast, drawn from our daily sit. This week, 2 new episodes, and they include the sessions led by Zach Newman and Yael Shai this week. So it's called Jewish Meditation for Everyone. Lots of kudos. Big shout out to Andrew, who's put those together really beautifully, and we're really proud of them. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and please spread the word as well. It's a good opportunity for people who are not able to join us in real time to participate in the daily sit and to engage in practice with us. So thanks again for being here. We're going to invite Kimberly in and welcome those of you who'd like to ask a question. You can put it in the chat, or you can just share reflections on the practice or the teaching in this chat as well. If you're leaving us now, we hope to see you tomorrow to sit into Shabbat together. Kimmy, thank you so much. I also, when you started off acknowledging, being honest and vulnerable about the emotion that is present, which for me is always there, but comes in different levels of intense waves. Sometimes people wonder, I think the people who do not understand necessarily what we're doing in this time may say, what are you actually doing? Right. And in part, what we're doing is making space for those feelings to be present. And then what you offer today, especially with that beautiful Eddie Hillesum quote, maybe we can put that back in the chat for people who missed it. It's quite an amazing, and maybe we can unpack that a little bit, which was really about the spiritual nature of paying attention to emotions, not pushing them away, and really allowing the wisdom within them to emerge. I think, we're not doing, it looks like we may look like we're sitting here doing nothing, but actually far from it, So I wanted to invite you to just talk a little bit more about that. There can be this kind of conception of meditation as navel gazing or avoiding what's going on, right? So maybe also, I want to invite you to talk a little bit more, since I know you're also a yoga teacher and you teach a lot of embodied practice, maybe how people can bring that into play in terms of access, really being in touch with the emotions that are present for us right now and allowing them to move through us without repressing them, as Eddie Hillesum wrote about.
Thank you. I'm just feeling all the emotions. Can you hear me?
Now I can. Yeah.
Okay?
No, that was
okay,
me.
Okay.
It's okay.
Oh, no worries. I feel like I've been feeling more in this past month than I have in a very long time. And it's been an interesting time being a person of teaching embodied practice, and I'm professionally creating opportunities for people to feel. And when everything started, I started to feel, first it was pain, and then I went into a numbing place, and I knew just from my education, like that's not a good place to be. And the more that I talked to friends, and we would just grieve together, and then there was waves of frustration, all these different things. What this time has reminded me of is how critical it is to remember the body in our grief and in our lived experience. And I think it's so easy to move and operate from a place of just the neck up. We live in a very cerebral world, and the body is absent. And something that's just the cultural way of being now. And, of course, sorry if you hear background noise, there's always something happening here. Um, but, I think a lot about the worlds that our ancestors come from, that were agricultural communities, that were deeply connected to the land and to the cycles of the moon. And we were always a very physical people through time. And then with, industrialization and the changing of the world, it just, everything kind of shifted up here. But it made us, excuse me, in that disconnection, we lost some kind of inherent wisdom that the body carries, that has all of the medicine and all of the ways of being. And that's why things like dance or yoga can feel very healing, because it allows us to move energy. The movement of energy, whether you're doing it in a sitting meditation, in that is what we're doing, or through actual movement, it shifts what's happening in your mind and in your spirit. And so when we're sitting in meditation, we're allowing energy to move in a way that can be alchemized or transformed into something different. When we are meditating, we are literally moving and transitioning from one state of another. And like I was saying, in a world that is just so here, excuse me, not only giving our brains and our eyes a moment to rest and pause the overstimulation that is our reality, but we're actually able to understand what is true and what is real inside of us. And the more that we do that, the more that we can hear and listen and understand, what is it that we need? What can help me feel present with myself and healthy and connected? And then we get to be aware of the feelings and the things that are happening. And like I said, that was a phrase that I said, when you feel it, you can heal it. When we are, excuse me, when we are actually aware of what is true on the inside, we can manage it in our waking life. And it impacts the way we move through the world and the relationships we hold and the way that we work and everything. Imagine how better connected our communities would feel if there was more encouragement of that honesty and of that authentic living from the inside out. And it's work, but a meditation practice, a prayer practice, a movement practice can bring that awareness in.
I think one of the questions that comes up, that's all beautiful. One of the questions that comes up, I see it in the chat too. People are speaking about, I think, about fear, in this, with anti-Semitism, the rise of anti-Semitism, fear of being known for being Jewish, and also the sorrow, it's just the grief. When I just want to see what your suggestions might be when the feelings feel so big, right? When we're swamped by them or dysregulated by them, what would you advise for people?
Sure,
Can I just interject? I'll say, like, while you're thinking about that, I was sitting and while I was, during that sit, I was just noticing the heartbreak that I'm carrying, both, for many reasons. Among the many reasons is, like, the hostages are really in my head, thinking about them, imagining their circumstances all the time. Of course, I'm also thinking about many other people and their circumstances too, but it's like it is almost too much to bear. Or I'm thinking about the deaths. And I was thinking about sitting Shiva, about how, at Shiva, really, my experience of Shiva is that really the best thing people can do is give a hug or hold hands. It really has much less to do with what people say than it has to do with kind of the physical comfort. So I said, oh, you can put your hand on your heart, put two hands on your heart. I squeezed my own hand as if I were squeezing the hand of a mourner. And I found that really helpful, not in taking it away, but in, like, lowering the temperature enough that I could still be with it. So I'm throwing that into the mix. But I'm curious about your suggestions too.
That's so beautiful and really tangible examples of what we can do. Just like we need food or water, we need community, and we need physical touch, and we need to feel that comfort in some way. It's a necessity. I don't have a single solution for how to reconcile with this, and it shouldn't be acceptable that I'm having conversations with friends that have said they're contemplating taking their mezuzahs down because the cities that they're in don't feel safe, and that just broke my heart. Mm-hmm. After all this time, here we are again.
And giving your legacy also, I'm thinking, that brings it up as well, your own family legacy too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a mix of feelings, because my first response was, no, we need to be proud and we need to be strong. And then my other response was, but that fear is real and I want you to be okay. So is that what we need to do? Mm-hmm. And so I share that example because those feelings of fear shouldn't be invalidated. They are valid and they are real. And they're not just the fears that we're having in this moment. They're the fears of all of our ancestors from millennia that are in us, with us. Mm-hmm. It's very triggering. So, my thoughtful response on that is to first recognize that you're not alone in that feeling. Because it can be very isolating. There's that. And I think acknowledging the fear that it is real, that you're not making it up, that it's tangible. And can it be acknowledged without it overwhelmingly taking the driver's seat in our existence? Because any choice out of fear is reactive, and it might not always be the best choice for us or others if we were in a different state of mind. And so that's where practices of regulating the nervous system are very helpful, and just really, really, really holding both of those things, and not to push the fear away. And I think the world has learned that pushing the fear away doesn't help anything. And I know that's what was taught to us for so long, but it's clearly not working. So to acknowledge the fear and to hold it with compassion, and also being committed to not staying there forever. So when the fears are there, breathing into them, naming them, writing it out, scream, cry, dance, pray, whatever you need to do, and then call someone. Then feel the sun on your face. Then journal about it, then have a nosh and a cup of tea, and come to a place of groundedness again, to find that regulation, and then examine the fear and get curious, what exactly about that or this is giving me those fears. And if you can, talk it out with someone or with yourself, thinking of what can I do to make myself feel safe in this moment. And not to totally try to problem solve and overanalyze or intellectualize it, but my instinct is to say, to feel it and then re-regulate and integrate and use that information to carry you moving forward. Because there will be times where you feel really strong and empowered, and then there's going to be times where you feel like hiding again. It's really a roller coaster of things, but that is the human experience. And from what I've learned in my studies around yoga and spirituality, excuse me, there's so much wisdom around trying to fold in and alchemize those things, and then also to transcend them, to be outside of the body and outside of the situation. And while that might feel very impossible to hold, that can provide some kind of oasis in the mind to be in a practice that allows you to float out of those things, to have a different perspective. And that's what the yogis really were doing, and reaching that state of nirvana, of Buddha under the tree, was just being, and his work was all about suffering, and how suffering is really the essence of the human condition in so many ways, and how to transcend that by being at ease. So I hope that provides some kind of some thought around that.
It does. It does. We're at times. I'm sorry because I wanted to also come back to that that beautiful teaching that was illustrated. Um, so maybe we'll get to do that again. But for people who didn't see it, maybe Andrew, if you can put the link to, if you happen to have it handy, to the. Well, first of all, I'm just going to put the quote, the Eddie Hillison quote, back in there, and yeah, maybe I can do this. And
can I just say something really quickly about
please.
Eddie's writing? When I read that, it just struck me of how deeply wise this young woman was in the middle of the Holocaust, to have these reflections, and her suggestion to not be led by hatred or revenge, but to be in your feelings and to find strength from that. I mean, to hear that in this time is deeply it's nourishing, it's comforting, and it's calming in so many ways. And it's why we are the people of the book, because we can turn to the people before us and the wisdom that we've been safekeeping for thousands of years to find that strength in the most dark of times. And if Eddie can do it, then I'm feeling like we can do it. And we will. She didn't get to live the rest of her life, but we're here, and we can live for her, through her, with her, through us. And there's just a lot of courage there. I'm thinking about her a lot.
Thank you for bringing her in. Okay, we're at or over time. Thank you so much, Kimmy. Really so good to see you, good to practice and hear you, and good to be together. Same for all of you. Really good to, so important and so good to connect in this way and to be together. Thanks, Andrew, for holding our space. And we hope to see everyone tomorrow to sit into Shabbat with Ken or Louise Treitman. Kimberly, be well down there, and be well, everyone. We'll see you soon. Many blessings.
Thank you. Be well. Bye.